Hey everyone, Leo with the Dreaming Tree, and welcome to the assembly video for our Tiger Lily Bouquet. Now it's been a while since we've done some 3D flowers, so I know you guys are excited. I'm very excited actually, because I've already made a few. You can see them here in front of me. Some of those are prototypes, so don't mind the strange colors, but I've got everything cut out, as should you, and we're just going to jump right in here. First thing we're going to do is actually work on the flowers. So you're going to have a total of, I already did a couple of these, okay, so what you're going to look for on these little tabs here, you see a little Roman numeral 1 and a Roman numeral 2. So 1 and 2 go together to form one flower. So you're going to have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 pieces like this. 5 will have the number 2, and 5 will have the number 1. Okay, so we're just going to start on this, and I'll talk about the leaves and the stamens here in a minute. So you can see what I did here. If you kind of jump on Google Images and do a search for Tiger Lily, you'll see that they come in all sorts of colors, and some of them have a lot of dots, some of them have not a lot of dots. The one that I'm trying to recreate here is a specific one that I saw on Google Images. But you can make it however you want. I would highly recommend popping onto Google Images and just kind of get an idea as far as what's out there and what style you want to recreate. I'm going to show you how I did this one though. Okay, so first thing is first, we need to get an applicator. And I thought I had some ready, but apparently, oh, there they are. Okay, so I use felt applicator. However you want to apply your ink is fine. Now you can obviously not ink it at all if you want. I don't recommend that because it kind of takes away from the magic, but it is doable. So that's totally up to you. And I've got this little tool that you can get with the package of applicators if you want. You can buy these separately or get it with this little guy here. It's up to you. And with this color, all I'm trying to do is just kind of create a little bit of a darker shade of this color. So I'm using kind of a orangey red for this. And I may actually, depending on, I believe when I was doing this, I wasn't getting the coverage that I wanted, so I ended up using a red. But the idea here is we're going to start kind of just doing little circles, starting at the bottom, see what kind of coverage we get. And that isn't really showing up that much. And actually, now it is. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of do little circles here. And if you increase the pressure, you're going to get more ink on there. And see, that's not really showing up too well. So I'm going to go with a little bit of a darker red here, because that orange is still going to be there. Because, well, the paper's orange, but I want to give it a little bit of a darker shade right at the bottom here. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of keep going here. And you may not be able to see it very well on camera, but it is kind of giving it a little bit of a different tone. And the more I do it, the more you'll see it. Okay, so yeah, I can see it now. You can probably see it now too. Maybe, maybe not. But you keep on doing this, probably about halfway up the petals here. And then I'm going to take it one step further in just a second. I'll show you. Okay, so this is almost kind of, well, we're being very conservative here and not changing the color all that much, but making it just very subtle. Okay, so if you are making some white ones and you want to add a little pink, I would probably go a lot easier with the ink on this. Now you should be able to see that now compared to this. Let me just kind of put these side by side. You can see the tone is way different. This originally was the same color as this. You can see how that's the same right here by my thumb, but as we bring it down, you can see how this one here becomes a lot lighter looking. So you may not see it as much on camera here in the video, but I bet you'll see it. It'll be a lot more substantial when I actually photograph these. Okay, so that's step one. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with the other one just to get it out of the way. And the tiger lily, well, I found out after doing a little bit of reading about it, it's endangered in some parts of the world. Florida, New Hampshire, parts of Canada. It's on the endangered species list, so it's kind of interesting. But it is native to these areas. It's also native to the Midwest. I see these popping up here and there. And for those of you that don't know, and this is maybe a reason to actually make these for your home, these are kind of very toxic to cats. So if you have a kitty, hopefully you don't bring any real tiger lilies in the house, because even if they brush up against it, you know how they like to brush their bodies up against things, it can be very toxic to them. So what a great excuse to make some beautiful flowers if you have a house full of kitties, or maybe just one kitty. Okay, so you can see the shading on that. All right, I'm gonna hit it a little bit more. I'm gonna make this a little bit deeper. So again, remember, each flower, each complete flower is gonna be made up of a 1 and a 2. So you look for those on the little tab there. Okay, so I'm happy with that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, and by hand with my finger, I'm going to use this color here, and I'm going to hit around the actual sides of each of these petals, just to darken those a little bit and give them a little bit of interest, while still maintaining the beautiful color of the cardstock in the center there. Okay, and I'll just go around and do all of the petals, just like that. Oops. And then comes kind of the fun part. You could actually probably get your kids involved in this too, because it does remind me of like being in art class. You can see these little dots here. I was just making sure that my marker was working fine. Actually, my normal brown marker dried out, so I had to go into the kids' stash of crayons and markers, and I found a marker that worked really nice, and I'm just going to use that. It just goes to show that, you know, you can whatever works, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so I noticed that I inked that one a lot heavier than this one, and that's okay. Just give it a little bit of interest and variety. No two flowers in nature are ever going to look the same. So, and that's the idea. You don't want them all to look identical. So, as I was reading about these tiger lilies, I read that the Native Americans used to actually use the bulbs to make soup, and they ate the roots too, which is interesting because we can eat it, but it's toxic to cats, so go figure that one out. Not sure how that all works, but anyway, it is one of my favorite flowers, and I'm glad we're finally bringing it to life through paper. Okay, so you see the inking there. That looks amazing compared to just, you know, being just one solid color. It really makes it stand out. And now I'm gonna take I've got actually just a Crayola marker. This is the one that I found in my kid's stash. And you can see here, you want to be as random as possible and try to sort of create like well, just as you get towards the tips of the petals, you know, do less and less of the dots. This area down here is a great area to practice because you won't really see it too much. Okay, and there was one photo of a tiger lily that had, I mean, it almost looked like, you know, almost looked like stripes on a tiger. And the first one I did, I kind of made them round like that, and you can do that, but I'm kind of using the side of it just to kind of create more of a, well, not as round. That's, see here I'm pushing down, it's round. If I use the side and press down like that, it kind of makes it, you know, I guess more rectangular. And I'm gonna go with that style on this one, and I think I'm gonna be very happy with it. And it seemed like in this photo of these tiger lilies that I saw, sometimes these really cluster around one another. Okay, so definitely take a look at some photos of various tiger lilies on Google and just try to recreate that. And then again, as we get towards the top, maybe make them a little bit smaller. And then maybe just a couple up there. You don't want it to be completely bare up there, but, and then I'm going to add just a few little specks here and there just to make it a little more random. You don't want it to look like it was mechanical. You want it to be as random as possible. Okay, there we go. Just like that. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing here. So you get the idea. So all we're trying to do is just kind of be random with it. Get a couple out to the edge as well. Maybe stagger a couple, maybe 2 or 3 right next to each other. And then work your way up. I think that looks nice. Be very random with it. There's really no rhyme or reason to this. You get the idea. Just have fun with it. I don't think you could really mess this up. Okay, I'm going to put one here, and then put some smaller ones in there just to kind of fill it in a bit. Can't go wrong with this. Okay, so that's that. That's the inking and the spotting. I think that looks great. And next, just want to go over a couple more things here. Put those off to the side. We have to talk about the stamens too. So the stamens here, you actually want to, you know what, let's do this first. I've got a nice chartreuse color. This is Pear Tart by Memento. And what we want to do is we're actually going to take and the pistil, we're gonna put green on the entire pistil, all the way up to the top. Okay, and you want to do that on both sides. And literally just getting some ink on there and doing it in one direction, like that. Okay, so there's the pistil, and then on the stamens, you want to go just halfway up. Just go about halfway up. Just very subtle. And leave the other half the natural color. I believe that's a vanilla. Okay, and of course we need to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side, going halfway up. Let me move this down a little bit so I don't accidentally pull any of that red color. Just brushing it on with my applicator. Just about halfway up. Okay. And then, once we have that, rather than giving you these tiny little pieces for the tips of the stamens, we're just going to take our brown marker and we're just going to color in the very tops of these. It's very simple. Just, you might want to move some of them out of the way so you don't accidentally color something you don't need color on, just like that. Yeah. Very simple. Just color those in. And of course we need to do the back side as well. And do your best to get that full of color. Completely cover up the, well, in my case, like I said, it's vanilla, so it's important that I get enough ink on there. Okay, other side should go a lot easier since it's not textured. Okay. Oops, make sure I'm not getting it all over the place. That looks good. And the last one here. There we go. Okay, so that's that, and I'll kind of walk you through that one more time here. Again, we're going to start off with this nice chartreuse limey green color, and for the stamen, we're just going to go about halfway up, just so that there's a little hint of color on that. Okay. It is hot in the studio today. I just ran the air. We got another muggy day. It's like the dog days of summer here. So I'm kind of excited for the nice crisp fall air. It seems to be much more enjoyable, at least to me anyway. I don't like being hot. I always tell everyone, well, you know, you can always, when you're cold, you can put on a layer, but when you're hot, it's not like you can rip off your skin. So again, on the pistil, you want to get that color all the way to the tip, all the way to the top, and then for the stamen, just about halfway up. Okay. And then the actual leaves on this, you've got various sizes. And what we're ultimately going to do is there's going to be 3 flowers that are solo, and then we're going to have 2 flowers connected together. Okay, and I'm actually going to use a different marker for this. I think maybe this is the one I used before. No, it is not. All right, don't make fun of me. Like I said, I went into the kids' stash. Ooh, yeah, this one's great. This Crayola is really putting it down for me. I've got all these Sharpies of various colors that I like to use for stuff like this. And I know a lot of you guys have Copic markers and stuff like that, and that's fine. I don't really do a lot of coloring, so it doesn't really bother me. As long as it gets the job done, pretty much anything will work. For something like this, I'm not really worried about its blending capabilities or anything like that. We just need to get a little bit of brown right there, and then our job is done. So pretty much anything will work. There we go, and the last one. There we go. Okay. All right, so we've got that. And again, as I mentioned, we do have a bunch of leaves as well. And what I did here was I just took a little bit of a darker green and I just ran it along the edge of one side. I don't really think you're going to notice it that much. You can ink both sides if you want, or you can just not ink it at all. It's not really going to make or break the project. But we're going to have a number of large ones and a number of small ones. And I'll give you that exact number here in just a second. Okay, so as I was talking about the actual leaves here, you're gonna have a total of 9 small ones and 6 large ones. And we have a total of 5 flowers. 3 of them are gonna be solo. So I already made a bunch of them here. You can see how beautiful they look. 3 of them are gonna be standalone, and then we're gonna make one where we kind of put 2 of them together. And let me see if I can show you that one here. So this is the prototype. We're gonna make the flowers as normal, but when we create the actual stem, we're gonna join 2 of them together. So that's really the only difference. Now you can make all 5 individually if you want. That's totally up to you. No right or wrong way of doing it. But as far as the leaves go, I just literally put them on some paper, and I just ran the ink right along the edge. If you want, you can absolutely do the other side as well, just to give it a little pop of color. Okay. And when you do that, just make sure that if you have a brand new ink pad, that you kind of test it out on a scrap piece of paper just to see what kind of coverage you're going to get. because you don't want to make a mess and ruin this piece here. So just go easy on it. Okay, but again, it's up to you how you want to do that. I kind of like just shading it on one side. It looks a little more natural to me and adds a little pop of color. Okay, so with that said, we can go ahead and begin putting our flower together. Now I've got this, well, this is paper wrapped floral stem, and I've got my floral tape. Make sure that when you pull it out, you stretch it a little bit so that we can reveal and expose more of the sticky element that's built into it. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to wrap the stem, the wire. I'm going to wrap it all the way down. Now I'm probably not going to use the whole stem, but it's good to have more because you can always trim it. If you start with something too short, it's a little bit harder to add length to it. So always start with more than you need. Okay. And just really quick, just wrapping the stem with the floral tape. And you want to use floral tape that matches the color of your leaf, just to make it kind of, well, more consistent so it doesn't stand out too much. Okay, so we're going to begin with the stamen here. And what I did to get this in place and make it stick was I actually just put glue on the very bottom of this. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. And you can just start pretty much on either side, it doesn't matter. I've got my texture side out, and all I'm doing is just really just wrapping it around the stem, trying to make sure that I keep the very bottom of this, the flat part, even with itself as I wrap it around. Okay, and then once we get to the end, you're just going to press and hold that down for a few moments until we're sure it's not going anywhere. And then we'll reinforce that with some floral tape so it doesn't come sliding down or up. Okay, so I'm just going to cut this off. This is making my fingers really, really sticky, but that's okay. All right, so just grab your floral tape, and I would put it halfway on the base of our stamen and halfway on the stem, and then you can kind of go up a little bit and then work your way back down. And that's gonna make it really stay in place. Okay, so there we go. And I think the best way to do this is just to kind of create an assembly line. So I'm going to put that off to the side, and while my fingers are still sticky, let's get this one wrapped as well. So you're going to do this a total of 5 times for each of the 5 flowers. Okay, I'm going to wrap that stem. There we go. All the way down. There we go. And then we'll do the same thing with the stamen. There we go. Okay, just rip that off. Grab your stamen and apply glue to the bottom section here, like so, and pop that right on there. You don't want the stem to go beyond this section here. You want it hidden, and then just simply wrap it around onto itself. Okay, and don't worry if you get the base of this thing a little messy. It's all going to be hidden by floral tape anyway. And just hold that in place until you're sure it's not going anywhere. Okay, just like that. Put that down, grab your floral tape, pull some of it out, stretch it, and about halfway up, and go up a little bit, and then back down. You can kind of press it up against the previous layer of floral tape to make sure that it really gets a good hold, okay? So you're gonna do that a total of 5 times to get 5 stems with stamens on them. And now we can begin working on the actual flower itself. I need to rinse off my hands real quick because they're pretty darn sticky. This tape is stickier than I've ever had as far as floral tape goes. Okay, so again, for each flower, you're gonna need a number 1 and a number 2. So we can kind of get those together. Here's a number 1, here's a number 2. And what helped me make sure I was doing it right was getting these trained, okay? So we want these petals to kind of curve this way, okay? We want them to curve out like that so we can see all the beautiful detail on the face of it. So what I'm doing is I'm putting each petal between my finger and the dowel, and then I'll take the actual petal and bend it 90 degrees towards me, and then just run the dowel through it like that, okay? And we're gonna curl these even more, but I'm doing this just so that I remember and I don't mess up curling the rest of it. So now I've got a thicker dowel. This is a 3/8 inch dowel, and I'm gonna pop it right in the center below the petals, and I'm gonna start curling each side over it to make this whole shape round at the bottom. Okay, so you're basically turning it into this now. So pop it in the middle and just take one side, fold it over the dowel, take the other side, fold it over the dowel, and that is what we need it to look like initially. Now you'll notice that there's a little tab on here, okay? And this tab is gonna get glued to the other side like so. So we need to put a little bit of glue on this tab, just the tab. Don't get it on the actual flower. And I'm gonna thin that out, spread it out nicely so I get full coverage. And then we're gonna take this and we're gonna glue it to the back of the other side. Try to make sure that it's making full contact throughout. And what I did was I took a dowel then and I popped it in there so that I could push up against my thumb from the inside. So I'm literally, with my right hand, I'm like kind of pulling towards me while I'm pushing away from me with my thumb. Okay, and that's really helping that glue get in there. And then you can maybe wait a few moments, but you can push right here at the score mark to really make this completely round. You see how that nice and round that looks. Okay, so give that a few seconds to set. I'm actually gonna put that off to the side for a minute while I do the same thing with this one. So remember, we want the petals to curl this way. Okay, so we're gonna take our dowel, 90 degrees, run it through. Okay, so there they are, nice and curled. Still gonna do some more to it. Take a thicker dowel, pop it right in the center, and fold it over, and then fold it over, like so. Okay, and then again, we've got this tab here. I'm gonna put some glue on it. I'm actually putting glue on the texture side if you're using AC cardstock. Okay. There we go. Now remember, you'll see it here on the tab. This is a number 2, this is a number 1. You want to keep that in mind because we need to put them in a specific order. Well, 1 goes first, 2 goes second, obviously. So then we're going to take that tab, tuck it behind, and glue that to the back of that section there. And again, it helps to pop a dowel in there so that you can get that pressure pushing up against it from the inside. And how am I doing here? I think mine's a little off. That's fine though. As long as you've got most of it. Whoops. I almost broke my flower. That's okay. Is this my number 1? It is. Good. Okay. Pay attention. I glanced up at the screen for a split second and almost ruined my flower there. Okay. So now, I'm gonna let that one set for a second. Now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take this dowel and I'm gonna just kind of curl it a little more. What we wanna see is, you see how these are kind of still sticking up more? we want to get something similar to this, where it's kind of sitting like that. So all you need to do is just take and towards the base of the petal there, just kind of train it a little bit, and then you can just kind of give it a little bit of a push down. Okay, just towards the base there, and then just pop it down. And there we go. Now, I'm gonna grab an even thinner dowel, and I'm gonna pinch the very tip of this between my finger and the dowel, and then I'm gonna curl it like you're curling your hair. And that's gonna give it that look there. And then you can kind of shape it by just kind of squeezing it a little bit to get that sort of look. Okay, just like that. And there we go. So that's essentially what we're looking for, that kind of shape. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing here. Grab this one, and just right at the base, just kind of train it a little bit. Just shape it so it looks very natural. It's just gravity kind of pulling on the petals. They're not strong enough to stay completely erect at all times. They're succumbing to the forces of nature. Okay, and again, just kind of curling the very tips so that they look like that. And that's starting to really look like a real tiger lily here. Okay, so this is my number one. So you can grab your stem, and if you want to, I recommend it, just throw a little bit of glue right at the bottom of the stem here, so that when we slide number one through the stem all the way up, once it gets to a point where it can't go any further, that glue is gonna hold it in place. Okay, try to make sure that you have it nice and centered. That looks great. Okay, just pull it up as far as it'll go. As long as the base of that stamen piece is no longer visible from the side, from the profile, you know you've got it right. Okay, so now we're going to take and put a little bit of glue here at the bottom again. And we're going to take our piece number two and slide it up the stem. And now with this one here, we want to offset it. We don't want it right behind the other one. We want to twist it. And I should have been paying attention. I got some glue on there where I didn't want it, but you know what, it's okay. It's hidden. And I kind of, there we go. Just make sure that you have it as, what's going on here? So much sticky stuff going on here. There we go. And that's the one right there, I think. Here we go. Okay. So that's it. There you go. Look at that. That's beautiful. Okay. So now once we have that in place, again, we can always finesse these a little bit more later on. Don't have to do that all right now. Now, in order to keep this from moving, you're going to grab your floral tape and going to start wrapping just the very bottom of it. Just want to overlap it ever so slightly. Don't want to go up too high. And then just bring it back down. Kind of smush it down as you go. And that's going to prevent it from coming down. Okay, but there is another beautiful tiger lily, and that looks so realistic. Okay, one other thing you can do too is take some of these stamen and just kind of train them out so they're not all so grouped in the center. Just give them a slight curve so they look more natural, almost like they're sort of succumbing to gravity as well. Very subtle on that, not too much. Okay, just like that. All right, cool. So let's do the flower one more time, and then we'll do the leaves all together. Okay, so again, we've got piece number one here. I'm going to take, and again, we want the petals to bend this way. So I'm going to take my dowel and curl them this way. There they go. Nice and curled. Not completely curled yet, but halfway there. I'm going to take a thicker dowel, pop it in the center, and just press the two sides. I'm just doing one side at a time. Just kind of curl it over the dowel to start making this nice and round. Okay, here we go. You can see it's kind of turning into a bit of a cone shape. And then we've got the tab here. I'm going to apply glue just onto the tab and thin that out a little bit, and then wrap it around and glue it right to the back of this layer here. Press and hold that down, pop your dowel inside, and press up with the dowel, down with your fingers to get that glue to really stay in place. These go together very quick, actually. You're gonna have a lot of fun with these. I can't wait to see your versions of these. There's gonna be a hit. I just know it. Okay, so now I'm actually gonna kind of squish the little score line there just to make this more round, because it was kind of like this before. I'm just gonna push right against that little score mark to make that whole middle a little more round, okay? So we'll grab this one here. Again, we want the leaves to curl this way. So we'll take our dowel and I'm just literally pinching it between my finger and the dowel, bringing it up 90 degrees and running the dowel through. Okay, and we'll take that dowel, pop it in the center, and just wrap one side around, and then pop the other side around like that. Okay, and then we've got our tab. This is number 2. Thin that out, spread it out, just like that. And just glue that right to the back of the opposite side. And hold that. Again, pop your dowel in there to help you apply that force from within. The force from within sounds like we're talking about Star Wars or something, but we're not. We're just talking about flowers here. All right, so find your piece number 1 here. I've got mine here. Grab our stem and apply our glue to the very base so it's got something to grab onto. Just like that. Piece number 1, slide it up and through. All the way up. Kind of helps to kind of twirl the main stem there. And since we put glue just below the stamen piece, just be careful as you're sliding it up to make sure that you don't get that glue on any of the petals on accident. Okay, and that looks great. Now we can either do this now or later, but I'll go ahead and kind of train this right here to make it kind of sag and drop and droop, whatever you want to call it, a little bit more. Okay, that looks great. And now I'm going to take and put some glue on the bottom of this. Piece number 1, just right at the base here. The stem is kind of long. Makes it a little hard to work with, but it's okay. All right, piece number 2, I'm going to slide it through. And again, it helps to kind of twirl as you're pulling it up so that it doesn't get stuck because of friction there. Okay, and again, you want to make sure you offset it. So you don't want it like that because that'll be hidden. You want to offset it so that every petal is nice and visible. And pull it up as far as you can before you feel that resistance. And there we go. Okay, perfect. And I'm going to take my dowel, put it right at the base of the petal, and just kind of train it right there. And you can kind of bring it down a little bit. Okay, and the last one here, just like that. Okay, and there you have it. There's another one. Okay, and as I did before, take and pinch the very tip between my finger and a very thin dowel and just kind of curl it like you're curling your hair. There we go. Okay. So now I'm going to show you here. These last two that I just put together with you, we're actually going to combine and make them on one stem. Okay, there we go. And don't forget to train the stamen out a little bit so they're not so straight up and down there. Just train them a little bit so they kind of sprawl out a bit. Okay, but there we have it. And let's not forget to wrap the bottom. So you're going to do this with all the flowers. All 5 need to be wrapped like this. And then after you have the flowers ready, this is where we decide, well, we decide how many are going to be solo. You can make them all solo if you want. That's totally fine. And I'll show you here. All right, so these two are ready to be spliced together, but let me go over these real quick here. Okay, so for the individual stems here, you'll notice that I applied the leaves roughly. Let me grab my ruler here so I can kind of give you an idea of where you want to place them. You really can't go wrong with it. The only thing that you can do is start the first one up too high. Okay, but with this ruler here, whoops, you can see here that from the base, from the very bottom of the paper there for the flower, the first one, I started to attach it roughly at about 1 inch. Okay, and then from that one to the next one, it's about another inch. So as you apply the leaves and attach the leaves to the stem, you want to give it about 1 inch between each leaf. Okay, so I'll show you that one. I've got a little spider friend over here. Now this one, I'll show you this one here. You can see from the very bottom of the colored part, you can see the first one is about 1 inch. And then the next one, this one here is about 3/4 of an inch. And then the next one's about 1 inch, and then that's about 1 inch as well. For the individual ones, you want to use the shorter ones, the shorter leaves, because again, remember we have the long ones and we have the short ones. Start with the shorter ones closer to the flower, and then as you work your way down, if you want to add a longer one, make the longer one either the second or third one. Okay, I need to tape this up a little bit more. It's kind of drooping a little bit too much. And that's going to happen. It's okay. So you get the idea here. The longer leaves you want to reserve for areas closer to the bottom, and the first few should be the shorter ones. Okay. So let me show you one more here. I don't want to mess that up too much. Now this one here. Where did my ruler go? You can see. The first one is about 1 inch, and then the second one I did about 1/2 inch, and then each one after that is about 1 inch apart. Okay, so that's how we did the individual ones. Now let me show you here how we're going to take and join 2 of them together. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of these, and I'm going to trim one of these off because I don't need both of them to be super long. So I'll trim that off. And I'm going to take and put 1 leaf on here. Now with these leaves, you also want to take them and train them. So you want them to curl this way. This is the texture side that I inked. So I'll put the dowel, I'll put the leaf between my finger and the dowel, 90 degrees, and just run it through. And that's how you get that, achieve that curl. Okay, so we're going to pop that. There's a little bit, this area here at the bottom of the leaf is specifically for taping. You can see how it's kind of more like a stick. Okay, and then, like I said, pop that on there and figure about 1 inch. Okay, so right about there, and you can kind of push that up against the paper. It may or may not stick for you, but if it doesn't, it's okay. And then just take your floral tape and wrap it around. Okay, so now with this one, I'm just doing one because I'm going to attach this to another one. And we want the majority of the leaves to be below where they're actually jointed together. Okay, so I've done that one. And let me see, do I have any more of the small ones? Yep, I do. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'll pop that right in place. Don't forget to train them. Like that. Pop that right up against it like so. And grab your floral tape, pull it out a little bit, and just wrap that around. Okay, it may take a few go-arounds before it actually starts to grip. And there we go. Okay, so now with the individual ones, we're going to join these two together, like I said. But if you're just making a stem with just one flower on it and not joining them together, what I would suggest doing is now taking either another short leaf and going down about an inch and wrapping it. And then maybe the third one will be the long one. Go down another inch and just wrap that. Now with this one here, like I said, we're going to connect these two together. So here is one, and that's a 3-inch mark there. I'm going to keep my thumb there. And then with this guy here, I'm going to bring him down about an inch. So I'm using this as a reference point, and I'm using this as a reference point. I'm going to bring that down about an inch so that the base of this and the base of this are about an inch apart. Okay, and then I'll just kind of group these together. I can pull that one out a bit. Okay, and then we can just begin taping both of these together at this point here, roughly. And that's how we're going to create just a single stem out of these two. But again, you don't need to do it this way. You can. It's up to you. You can make them all individual if you want. Probably have a little more control that way as far as the final arrangement goes. But either way, this is how you can kind of group them together. And then the process of adding the leaves is exactly the same. So we'll go through that here in just a second. Okay, here we go. Okay, so you can see how nice that looks. Okay, and I'm going to trim this down here at the bottom. I'm going to leave a little bit so that can always go in and cut more when we work on our final arrangement. So we've got the two small ones at the top, and again, you just go through these here and get them all curled real quick. There's 3 left. And again, we've got the base of one of the leaves here, so we're going to go down about another inch, and you want to stagger it. You don't want them to all be in line. You want to kind of offset it a little bit to make it more full. Okay, so that one's going to go about there. I can actually kind of maybe bring that one up a little bit more. Make it a little more full. Okay. And again, just grab your floral tape and just get that taped into place. Just work your way around. You really can't goof this up. It's really not that bad. Okay, so there's that one. You can see how that looks. Very pretty. All right, now with this one here, I'm going to go about a 1/2 inch, and again, I'm going to stagger it a little bit so they're not all right on top of each other. You can see here, I've got one there, one there, one there. I'm going to put one right here, roughly right about there. And let's just get that taped on. I'm going to focus the tape right at the base where it's a little more of a stick shape at the base of this leaf. I need to trim this off because it's starting to kind of get all frilly. Okay, there we go. And just hold that in place. And as you're wrapping this, sometimes it has a tendency to kind of slide. So wrap it around once, and then before you bring it down too far, just make sure you have it in the right spot. And then you can go ahead and commit to it and continue wrapping downward, and then it won't go anywhere. Okay, so you can see how that's turning out. Okay, now I have 4 on this one. You know what I might do is just put that off to the side and grab this one and just add a 3rd one to this. I think that makes more sense. So just, you know, kind of look at everything, analyze it, decide, well, you know what, that one's got plenty of leaves there. I'm going to add a 3rd one to this. And again, I'm kind of staggering it off so that they're not all sitting right on top of each other, and just taping it down. Very simple. Okay. So that's that. I'm going to fold these all up so you can see how all of these are going to look together as beautiful. Okay, so our flowers are done. Now it's time to put the actual flower pot, or the vase, I should say, together. Okay, so we're going to start by putting our vase together here. All right, so we've got 4 sections, and then we've got 2 pieces like this. It's not possible to get the liner inside, so we're just gonna put 2 layers on the bottom just to make it a little bit sturdier. These are the panels that are gonna go on the side, on each of the 4 sides. Okay, and we also have this beautiful gold foil that we cut out. So we're going to start by putting the foil onto the panel, and then we'll put the panel onto each of the sides, and then we'll assemble it. The assembly on this is going to be very quick and easy. The tabs are nice and long. Now you'll notice on these panels that I did ink them with a little bit of brown, and then there are also some markers there to help you with the placement of this piece. That way we can make sure that we have it nice and centered. Now if you too are working with a foil, be very careful if you get a little bit of glue on your finger not to transfer that to the foil, as it's pretty tough to clean that off, and sometimes you risk blemishing your foil. So my advice is towards the top here where it's really skinny, try to get as little glue as necessary on that area, and if you happen to get a little too much, just dab it off with your finger. Okay, again, we do have markers here to help you with the placement of this piece here, and then of course you still want to look at it visually, make sure that it's completely centered. And just press that into place. That looks pretty good. Okay, so we got 2 done. We got 2 more to go. So I think all the hard work is done as far as the flower goes, the flowers. That's the bulk of the work. This is elementary compared to what you just did with the flowers. So hopefully those turned out perfect. And I'm certain that no 2 flowers are going to be alike. So don't even worry about trying to match mine exactly. They're all going to be a tiny bit different, and just want to get in the ballpark with it. All right. And the last one here. Again, being careful up at the top there where it's getting real skinny. And there we go. Give that a little nudge over. Looks like it was slightly off. There we go. Okay. So those are all set. And again, each of these sections is going to take one of these panels. And then the top part is going to take a smaller one here. You can see those there. And we'll just start off with those. We got that nice and inked as well, the top section. And the vase is going to be Very simple. Now, we don't have any markers on that. The idea here is just to get it as centered as you can so that you have a nice even border all the way around the panel here. And you can see how nice it looks with that ink on there. Okay, so now for this panel here, we did include some little markers at the bottom to help you get it aligned correctly. Because there's a little bit of there's some negative space up there at the top, right up here. And we want to make sure we maintain that. Okay, so that is how that's going to work. Okay, so there's our first panel there. All right, let's just complete that with the remaining pieces here. There's my fly friend again. He's like, when are you going to be done? When are you going to leave some food sitting out? Not today, fly. Kind of busy. All right, so again, use the little markers there at the bottom for the long piece. And for the small piece at the top, of course, like I said, that we're just going to have to eyeball your back, aren't you? Okay. So you get the idea here. If you want, you can hang out with me while I finish up the other two, or you can pause me and then just kind of skip to the next section. The next thing we're going to do is just put all these together to make them one solid piece so that we can give our flowers a home. There we go, there's two. You get the idea here. This is probably the easiest part of the entire assembly. Maybe should have started with that first, get that out of the way, but the anticipation is killing me now. I want to see what this is all going to look like once we get the flowers in there. And this orange on this panel is really going to play nicely with the orange on the actual flowers. So there's a little bit of a harmony there. Okay. All right. So anyway, you can go ahead and finish up the last one, and then we'll go ahead and begin assembling the vase. Okay, so on to the assembly. I've got all four of my sections together, and we're going to begin by gluing the large pieces or the large sections together. First, I would highly advise making sure that you fold everything at the score marks, especially this guy here, so that when you put this piece right next to it, you can see the very bottom and you know that you have it aligned correctly. Okay, so it's going to go on just like that. So in order to do that, we begin by putting glue on our tab here. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit more here at the bottom. And I'm going to spread that glue out to the very edge. There we go. And you know, for this first one, you can actually put this down flat and line it up like that. Just make sure the bottom is nice and lined up, as well as the top. I'm looking at the little score marks here at the top and bottom, making sure that those are all lined up nicely. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it onto itself like this. And then that way I can actually press down right on that seam. And also, these two tabs here, if they're sitting right on top of each other at these angles here, then you know you've got it spot on as far as getting everything aligned, okay? And we can actually continue doing that, working on this flat. There's absolutely no reason why not. Anytime you can work on something in 2 dimensions before you make it 3-dimensional, I highly advise it. Just you're less prone to making mistakes and warping the paper and just making things unsightly, okay? So there's that. We'll grab the next section. Line it up and press that down into place like so. There we go. Okay, and finally the 4th section, and then we just have to connect it all together. We'll do the top last. There's no harm in doing that last. Just a couple tabs up at the top, and before you know it, we'll be done. Okay, spreading that glue out to the very edge of the tabs. There we go. Peel off or pull off any excess glue that you may have sitting there and get that lined up nicely. There we go. Oops. All right. I'm going to fold it over onto itself so I can kind of adjust it. I was a tad bit off there. There we go. That works. Okay. All right. So that looks great. And now we're going to close this up. I've got one more tab. And a few more tabs at the top. I'm going to fill this in with something to kind of weigh it down. And I would recommend not using anything edible. I've made that mistake before. I guess it depends on where you have it. And you can fill it with like some beans or something, but honestly, I've had way too many instances of mice and stuff getting into my paper projects, so I'm using just these little artificial pearls. Okay, so I'm just connecting the last sections together here, rubbing off any excess glue. I'm going to take it and fold it over onto that seam. This thing should fold completely flat, and that's a good indicator that you got everything perfectly lined up. There we go. Okay, so now what we have here is just a series of small little tabs so that we can get the top section in place. So start with one of the tabs here, it doesn't matter which one, and spread that glue out just like we did at the bottom, and press the neighboring side right up against that tab and continue to hold. Make sure that it gets a really good hold there. There we go. And we can move on to the next tab. So you kind of get where this is going. Pretty straightforward. Okay. And get that lined up, press that into place. Okay. And moving right along here, we've got two more tabs to go, and then we just need to put the bottom on, and we can begin putting our flowers in and making our final arrangement. It's going to be great. The moment we've been waiting for. Okay, so we're pressing that up against the tab that we just put glue on. Why do I feel like it just got brighter in here? Okay, and tuck that last tab inside. We need to kind of peel it back all the way so you can see it there, and we'll need to apply our glue kind of from the inside a little bit since we don't have as much room there. Peel that excess glue off and press that into place, and just continue to hold for a moment. There we go. Okay, so we can flip this guy over now. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these pieces here and pick a tab, doesn't matter which one. We're going to anchor the bottom to just one tab for now, and we'll do the remaining three all at once. This is just a much easier way of doing it so that you don't have to try to align it while you're gluing it. This will keep everything nice and aligned for you. So grab one of these are identical, both the same size. Grab one. Get some glue on one tab and get it nice and butted up against that score mark there. You don't want to go over it, just right up to it. Whoops. Okay, and try to make sure you get it centered. Just like that. If it helps, once you get it in place, you can press down on your table to get the rest of that glue to really seep in there. Okay, so that worked beautifully. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to put glue on the remaining three tabs. You can move that out of the way. And we're going to close this up. There's one. There's two. Don't push down too hard. You don't want to break the neck of the vase. Do a little extra line there at the bottom. I think I'll have enough excess from these two sides to get the third side. Okay, And there we go. That was right. Okay, all right, so now we're gonna close this up. Just focus on aligning this side here to this side here. The other two sides will naturally just kind of fall into place. Okay, and if you kind of need to give the side of the vase a little bit of a nudge in, it's totally normal. And then just press down on the other sides as well. Continue applying a downward pressure. Not too much pressure though. You'll crush it, obviously. And check your work there. Make sure that it looks all nice and seamless. Mine is still kind of drying, so be patient. Don't let go too soon. Okay, there we go. And the side here needs a little extra TLC. Just keep holding that. Beautiful. Okay, so just for a little extra reinforcement, take your last little square here and add some glue, get some glue out to the edges, and we're just going to pop that right on the bottom. It's going to thicken it up for us. Just get it nice and centered. There we go. All the way around. And then you can kind of just put that down on your table. And there's our beautiful vase. I'm going to open up my little filler balls here. And this again is just to kind of weigh this down. And also it kind of creates a little bit of friction inside so that when you put your floral stems in there, they stay in the place that you want them to stay. Whoops. And I filled mine up pretty good there. Okay, so what I'm thinking here is I want the top of this flower to be, I'm going to put it back here so you can kind of pretend like it's in there. I want the top of this flower to be roughly 3/4 of the height of the actual vase. So if you look at, that's about the height of the vase. So I'm going to trim off a little bit more. Actually, I'm not going to trim off that much more, but I'm going to trim this off a little bit. I need some new pliers, or wire cutters, I should say. Okay, and this is going to be my main one here in the center. Pick the side that you would consider like the front, and I'm going to kind of aim it towards me a little bit, not too much. I want to be able to see it. Okay, and then I'm going to take my twosome here. Okay, because we've got the one in the center. Then I'm going to put two. I'm going to put two on the left, and we'll put two on the right. These guys are going to be kind of grouped together, and they need to go. Okay, so my advice is for this main flower here to be about 5 3/4 inches. The orange part here, the base of this, I want that about, I have it about, got it at about 5 inches right now. So the base of that to the top of the vase at about 5 inches. Okay, so now I'm going to take and I'm going to put these two in, and I'm going to put these two over onto the left-hand side. We kind of find a vantage point. My vantage point is looking straight ahead. So I really want the flowers to look very full, and I want them to be the focal point. Okay, so I need to trim this off a little bit. I've got way too much on there. I'm going to trim that about here because the next the next 4 flowers are going to go lower. We want to kind of, spread them out a little bit so they're not all just on top of each other. So that one's going to go there. I probably need some more filler so I can really get these to stay where I want them, and then kind of, angle them so that you see more of the surface of the flower. Yeah, I should probably get some more filler. Okay, but that looks great. And then once we get the other two in, I think it'll stick better. So now this guy here, this is going to be my shorty. And he's going to go front and right. He's going to really be just barely popping out of the vase. like so. And then we've got one more little area here where we can put this guy, and I'm gonna pop them in here. And you know what, that stem is just about at the right height. So I'm gonna pop him in there. And the leaves are kind of fighting themselves a little bit, but it's not horrible. And then at this point, it's just a matter of kind of bending and twisting and arranging, I guess, because that's what we're doing. We're just making an arrangement and getting it to look as full as possible. And I think that looks great. Let me grab this one and bring this down a little more. And I want to see more of that one. There we go. Okay, maybe angle that towards me a little bit. And let me flip it around, and there you have it. I think it's gorgeous. Look at that. So anyway, just have fun with the arrangement process. It's really not that difficult. Just kind of have a vision. And if you need to just look at how I have mine, by all means, feel free to do it. So anyway, that's it for this one. What else am I going to do to this? I'm going to put some gold pearls in this little area here in the center. And that's it. That'll complete it. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, and if you make this, head on over to your Facebook and do a search for Dreaming Tree Group, where you can join myself and the over 30,000 other dreamers that inspire us daily. So I cannot wait to see your version of this. I know this is going to be another popular one. I think it came out amazing. Very easy, and a great reason to get into the craft room to create something beautiful. This is going right on my dining room table. I know it. So anyway, I look forward to crafting with you again. Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos, and also please consider hitting that subscribe button. And don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section, where we have over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly videos. I look forward to crafting with you soon.